Whoa! All right, it's Wednesday morning here in Vegas, and it's 1 o'clock in Florida. I've got Savant joining us. He is a podcaster, podcast agency owner, AI entrepreneur. Mark, thank you for joining us today.
What's up? What's up? What's up? Glad to be here, baby. Let's talk shop, bro.
Yes, I'm super stoked. So, in this episode of the Hustle Science Experiment, our business lesson is going to be all about adapting AI and automation in your business. Mark's got some strong opinions on that. And then our life lesson, we're going to be talking about enthusiastic agreements in relationships. So let's get into the business lesson, Mark. Oh, actually, before we do that, before we get into the business lesson, Mark, can you share a little bit more about your career, what you're doing and how you've gotten to get to where you're at today?
Sure. Graduated from university in 2009. Went straight to work in the insurance industry. Hated it. Loathed it.
Mm,
The worst thing ever. If you're stuck in a job you hate, now is the time to take action. Opportunities are tremendous. So I started experimenting. Eventually, I landed on podcasting. Loved it.
mm.
People started paying me to help them. And now I've got a globally ranked top 1% podcast, After Hours Entrepreneur. I run a media production company where we produce podcasts, blogs, show notes, emails, all that good stuff. And I run a mastermind for entrepreneurs as well. Mark Savant Media. You can find me all over the web.
Heck yeah. That's awesome, man. Podcasting is such a powerful tool for getting your message out there and driving impact. Really putting your purpose out there. But you talked about AI as the business lesson. I can imagine there's lots of ways that you're leveraging AI in your podcasting setup. Especially when it comes to content creation or research. Can you talk to let's get into that business lesson of why people should be thinking about leveraging AI in their business.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about this backstage, Elias. AI changes everything. This is not NFTs. This is not Web3. This is not blockchain. This fundamentally changes the way that we interact with people online, social media, podcasts, YouTube, emails, list generation, strategies. Everything is changed. And most people don't recognize what has already happened. Most people don't recognize it. I'll give you a perfect example. I created a YouTube video on this topic, exactly laying out exactly how to do this. But historically, when I would have people create blogs for my website, which helps me rank in SEO, helps me provide more value, it helps build my authority and credibility in a space. Historically, that would take me a pretty long time to do the research, write out the blog, hooks, titles, references, formatting, all that. It would take me a long time. Let's say 3 hours.
Yeah.
Or I would pay someone to do it, in which case they would probably charge $150 a blog article.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just last week, I wrote a blog article. It took me 15 minutes. I used ChatGPT to do the research and find me 15 references. It wrote a bunch of different points. It stylized it all out. It gave me 10 different potential titles. It took me all in all about 15 to 20 minutes to write an entire blog article. And that's just me. Now, if you imagine that you're working with people, maybe overseas, or maybe that don't have a great specialty in copywriting, you can teach them how to leverage these tools and become massively, massively impactful. They can go from a level 2 to a level 9 overnight, immediately. Yep. And it's tremendous. That's one example. I could give you 10 more. But that's something that's really practical that you can use today. This is not creating a whole NFT project and crowdfunding and crowdsourcing, and I need to set up my MetaMask wallet. This is not that. This is open up ChatGPT, type in the right prompts, and you have an entire blog article in 5 minutes. It's unbelievable. It's shocking.
It is super shocking. It's incredible what we're able to do now. One of the use cases that we've implemented was using ChatGPT to help plan out 6 months of social media content, right? And that took maybe about 4 hours, but that was unfathomable before, to think about, okay, well, we'll plan out 6 months of content ahead of time. We'll have this entire content stream done, and we're gonna do it in half a day. And now that has become the norm. Like every day, you can really move mountains essentially in terms of execution.
I'll give you another example I think is super powerful. When you're looking at using ChatGPT, what I'm obsessed with is the automation. How can I automate? How can I put ChatGPT into my processes. And you might have heard of this thing. If not, there's this program called Zapier. And basically what it does is it connects softwares together that don't normally communicate with one another. And so when you incorporate ChatGPT into that workflow, it is tremendously powerful. And I'll give you a perfect example of how you can do this. I set up an automation. So like I mentioned, I run a mastermind and we're just all kind of bouncing ideas off each other, telling each other what works. And the other day, someone mentioned this workflow. I executed it, and it's been transformative for my podcast and my client's podcast. So this is how it works. You set up a Google form, which is free, by the way. You set up a Google form, and you can ask people to fill out the form. You can ask questions like name, what's your business, give me your bio, give me topics that you're interested in talking about. This is in my podcast workflow. You can do this for other purposes, but you have a Google form. You implement ChatGPT into this process. So after the form is filled out, it sends it to ChatGPT. ChatGPT will take all those points that were typed in, all those data points that were typed in from the bio to the business, et cetera, and it will create all sorts of custom content from your social media posts to emails to blogs to podcast descriptions to titles to hashtags, everything. Then it will you can set it up to automatically create custom folders in your Google Drive. And you can set it up to automatically create a Word document in that Google Drive that's completely filled out with all the information from ChatGPT. It is bananas. Oh, yeah. And did I mention that it also will send a notification to your team? It'll set up automatically a workflow in your management system. I use Monday. You might be using Notion or Trello. It automates all of it. It is bananas. And this is what I mean, Elias, when I say everything has changed, because previously human error will cause problems. Human error, the time that it takes to fill out the form, write in the text, create a folder, create a drive, notify my team. All of that's done automatically, and you don't even need to touch it. It's all happens when someone fills out that form. Unbelievable. Completely changed my life.
Yeah, dude, wonderful. Super unbelievable for sure. And folks can really there are almost no limits to what is possible leveraging tools like Zapier or Integromat and Make, because these are, low code tools that any entrepreneur that knows how, that's somewhat tech savvy can use. And then now they can start automating workflows. And now that you can integrate AI into that, that's just made it a whole new game changer, because now, like you said, you essentially have an AI assistant that can do work for you with very basic inputs and prompts. There are some folks that are afraid that AI is actually going to have a negative impact on the quality of work, on the creativity of work that happens, in our industry. What do you say to those folks?
There's some real fears, and I can, if we want to go a little bit deeper, I can explain some of my fears on that. But here's my viewpoint. It's here. It's happening. I can't control whether Silicon Valley or the government decides, or Elon decides to put the stuff on pause. I cannot control that. However, what I know is that if you're not leveraging these tools, you're not going to be competitive. Because if I'm using these tools throughout my workflow, there's no way you could compete with my speed, with my accuracy, with my consistency. It is not possible. It's like you're working with 2 hands out in the field, and I've got 50 hands with a bunch of industrial sized equipment. You're just not going to be able to compete. So I think it's really important that you get ahead of the game now. I'm more focused, again, I run a podcast agency. I'm more focused on the content creation aspect of this. How can I automate and create as much content as possible for clients at the lowest expense, that's the highest quality, right? And the vast majority of creators don't understand that this has happened yet. They don't understand. What I think is going to happen over the coming years, this could be 6 months, 18 months, 24 months. What's going to happen is, as creators start to figure this stuff out, probably because they're following my content on YouTube, on the Mark Savant Media channel, they're probably following my content, so they're probably figuring it out. But as they start to figure it out, what's going to happen is the market is going to be flooded with content. Absolutely flooded with content. And I don't know how that's going to impact the user experience on apps like Instagram, like LinkedIn. So I don't exactly know what the long-term impact of media is. We could live in a world where there's the big players and then there's nobody else. I don't know. Another thing that happened this week that I think is really interesting is Don Lemon, Tucker Carlson being canned. Views of corporate media, traditional media are way down. And there's a lot of different dynamics there. But what I will say is that we have the unique ability to create content at scale right now because of the tools, these AI tools that are now accessible to us. And again, we just scraped the surface on what's possible. You know what? While everyone's here, I'm going to give you one more practical application, something that I've used ChatGPT for this week. I'm working with a client, big show, gets about 300,000 downloads a month. And I'm working to find advertisers for this show. Historically, how do you do that? You go and you listen to a ton of podcasts to find other companies that advertise on podcasts. Maybe you're using different expensive resources. I don't do that trash. I go to ChatGPT. I say, write me out a list of 500 companies that speak to alpha male brands that have advertised on podcasts in the past. And you know what it did? It wrote me out a list of 500 companies that have advertised on alpha male style podcasts in the past. Now what do? I send that over to my team and they get to work. They start outreaching, they start filling the funnel with leads. I feel like I've been saved and I found Christ. And I just have to evangelize this to everybody because it's life-changing stuff. And again, 99.9% of people don't understand what's happened. It's already happened. This is not happening. It has happened.
Yeah, absolutely. It has happened. And to your point, really interesting what we're seeing happening in the macro with the shifts in the media and shifts in companies, right? I mean, like Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft, Google, Apple, they all experience massive layoffs. And yeah, we can say a part of that is from the recession, but I think the executives at the top are smart enough to recognize how crazy disruptive AI is. And Carl here, he's got a pretty big comment. I'm going to put it on the screen. Carl, thank you for dropping that in. And I think the gist of this comment is this is out of control and it's changing the game, and it's causing a lot of people to lose their jobs and lose their shirts. And I agree with you. My reaction to what you're saying is it's not that AI and technology is doing this, but what's happening, it's like imagine this. Imagine I've got the smartphone, I've got the iPhone 14 in my hand right now, but the person I'm competing with is still using a Nokia flip phone, right? I am just going to be able to do so many more things faster, execute way faster, that I'm going to do a lot more at a lot cheaper price than this other individual, and I'm going to outcompete this person out of the job market, out of the workforce. And I think that's what's happening at the macro. Mark, do you have anything else you want to react to Carl's comments here?
Well, to be honest, I don't really understand the comments, but what I think is, like I'd said before, the game has changed. Companies that don't adapt are going to be extinct. They're not going to exist. A, B, I disagree that companies aren't adopting this stuff. It is kind of like a gold rush right now, and that's maybe one of the biggest fears that the industry leaders have, is that it's moving so fast. We don't, and it's going to impact every level of every industry in such a profound way. It's going to eliminate so many jobs, create new jobs. But the thing is, because these companies are in this gold rush, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, all these companies, it's moving so fast, it's being adopted so rapidly. We don't really know all the implications, which I think is probably the biggest dystopian style fear. I also recognize that throughout the course of history, there's always old men saying, "Get off my lawn with that new stuff." I don't.
Right.
But this is different. This is different because in a world where communication happens online, AI completely transforms the way that we're again, literally every single industry will be disrupted tremendously, which is why I'm happy to be on a show like this with you, Elias, where we can kind of talk about this and get people to understand it. Because listen, I just gave you, I think, 3 or 4 different very, very specific, practical, actionable stuff you could do today And frankly, it's not that complicated to get started. It's not that hard.
Really not.
You don't need to
Really
be
not.
afraid of using this stuff. Frankly, you should be afraid of not using it.
Yep, yep, I agree with you completely, Mark, and I bet we could talk about this all day. I mean, this is, something that we're both in all day. We love it, and I think we're, trying to push it as far as we can go. But let's keep this moving. Let's take a quick break and recognize, our moment of gratitude. I encourage everybody who's watching to take a moment to express some gratitude. You could drop it in the comments here. But Mark, what are you feeling grateful for today?
I mean, I'm just grateful that I live in the United States of America. I live in Florida. It's free. We got no state tax. I've got a great family. I go to the beach when I want. I work when I want. I feel very, very blessed to being here in the United States. I feel very blessed.
Amen, dude. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Let's go into our life lesson. Our life lesson is about enthusiastic agreements in relationships. Can you talk about what that means?
Yeah. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, quick shot to Carl there. Carl, I apologize again. I was reading through it. I couldn't quite understand it. Um, but yeah, I think adopting formal methods right now is probably very difficult because the tech is moving so fast. Every day there's something new that's happening. But I agree. I think the companies need to um, safely adopt technology. So, okay, back to your question here, Elias, on having an enthusiastic agreement with your partner. Um, Partnerships are tough on their own. Um, and when you mix entrepreneurship, business, in the hustle that we feel to grow our businesses and to make a difference in the world, to make an impact in our community, it is going to put friction on your relationship. Period.
Yeah, yeah,
Amongst
absolutely.
other things. And I take my marriage very seriously. I take my family very seriously. It's the most important thing in my life. Um, and sometimes my wife and I we disagree. I know, crazy concept. Sometimes we disagree with our partners, right? I know. I'm saying it here first. First time ever it's been said. Um, but just last week I had the opportunity to go to travel. And my wife wasn't enthusiastic about it. She said, I was going to go to Tallahassee to meet with some lawmakers. Um, and on behalf of Meta, I'm part of the Meta Small Business Network, and they were going to send me to talk to some lawmakers to chat to give my small business experience. And my wife was not enthusiastic about it. It caused some friction. She's like, I don't like it when you're traveling. I want you home. You're putting a lot of pressure on me. You always get to travel. I have to stay home with the kids. This isn't fair. We're having a really hard time getting through that because my point was this is important for both of us. Traveling gives me the opportunity to grow my network. It gives me the opportunity to build our business, the business that is going to pay for our lives long term. And what we ended up doing is deciding that anytime one partner is going to, we both have to agree on decisions, basically. And if one partner is not enthusiastic about what the other partner's doing, we need to make up for it, to come to an enthusiastic agreement. So I'll give you an example of how this played out. Honey, I want to go to Tallahassee. This is a good opportunity. It's going to help us build the business. Well, Mark, I don't want you to go. I want you to stay home. It's important to me that you're home. I said, Joanna, what can I do? What can I do? What can I give you that would make you feel good about this? And so we talked it out, and I'm going to watch the kids for a couple days and give her a chance to let loose and go out. Right. So, and then, by the way, then we put it in a journal. We write it down. We both initial it to say we've come to an agreement on this matter, because the last thing that you want in a relationship is resentment. And I that's been something that's really important to me. How do I navigate growing a business while also growing my relationship with my wife and kids? Very important and very delicate balance. So the enthusiastic agreement journal, put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Yeah, dude, I love that. I love that y'all also write it down and sign it together. I think that really helps bring things to a resolution. And yeah, groundbreaking stuff here. I mean, but the reality is, every entrepreneur, or even busy professionals are struggling with work-life balance. And as a startup entrepreneur, owner of your own company, there's so many things happening on the outside that you're dealing with, that if you let it, it will consume all of you. And sometimes you need to let it consume as much of you so that you can actually grow it, and be successful. I think so. Definitely a struggle to maintain, but I'm glad to hear that you found a solution that didn't include not going to the Tallahassee trip, or not going and doing what you need to do to grow the business, and you're able to find a different solution. So kudos to you and your wife. And Joanna, sorry for bringing it out of Mark here today, but I appreciate y'all's transparency and openness, because it is important, and a lot of people struggle with this. And so thank you so much for sharing.
Transparency, baby. It's the only way to do it.
Absolutely. All right, so we're coming up to the time here. Mark, how can folks get involved with everything that you're doing and get in touch with you?
You can find Mark Savant Media wherever you spend your time. If you're on YouTube, Mark Savant Media. If you're on LinkedIn, Mark Savant Media. If you're on Instagram, I'll keep it simple. Just go to Mark's. Guess what? You need to go to marksavantmedia.com. You can go to, Mark Savant Media. I don't know where this is happening, but I spend very little time in the metaverse. You can see my Oculus goggles back there.
Nice.
My Quest 2. I don't spend a ton of time in there, but all of a sudden people have been following me like crazy. And I don't know exactly where they're finding me from, but thanks for following me in the metaverse. I will probably see you when the technology gets to a place that I'm comfortable spending time there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if folks need help launching their podcast, they can come to you. And you've also got your AI powered mastermind. People want to learn more, they can go to marksavantmedia.com to get all that info.
That's it. Again, we're going through the most impactful change in human history right now. There's going to be a lot of business owners that are left behind. I don't want that to be you. So, whether it's my free content on YouTube or the podcast, or, you want to do something that's more comprehensive, like joining a mastermind program where we talk about this, it's whatever. I'm here to give you the tools that you need to navigate the next major shift in human history. I mean, this is bigger than the printing press, bigger than the formation of agriculture. It's, I honestly struggle to compare it to anything. And I know people are saying, Mark, it's all hype. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's just, it's not. I'm using it. I'm implementing it. It's a big freaking deal. And we've only scraped the surface. So I'm very excited about the future of my business. I'll be excited for the future of y'all's business if you start using this tech now. If you don't, then I'm nervous. I'm scared for you.
Yep. Same here. Mark, thank you so much for being on this episode of Hustle Science Experiment. I really appreciate it.
Glad to be here, baby.